Another great fall excursion takes us to the Everett Railroad in Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania. During our visit, the Alco-built 260 number 11 was being prepared for her first ever public excursion. This locomotive was recently restored and is operated by the hard-working steam team at the Everett Railroad for tourist operations over the small short line. Today's excursion will depart out of Hollidaysburg and return after about 2 hours. The highlight of today's run, an adventure in a pumpkin patch. The children on board will have an opportunity to pick out a pumpkin for the upcoming holiday of Halloween. After the train had been assembled, inspected by the crew, and all the passengers were accounted for, the 11 and the accompanying coaches depart the Hollidaysburg depot. One of the most interesting facts about the Everett Railroad is that all the coaches are steam heated by the locomotive, making the Everett one of 2 railroads in the state of Pennsylvania to have such historic equipment. For the rail fan, it gives one the perspective of what it was like to ride a local passenger train straight out of the 1920s. Steam locomotive number 11 was constructed in 1920 by the Cook Works of the American Locomotive Company in Paterson, New Jersey. It is a 260 or mogul type and was one of 54 engines of 4 different wheel arrangements built between 1920 and 1925, intended for export to Cuba and use in that country's sugarcane fields. Alco turned to the domestic short-line railroad market, but it wasn't until 1923 that the tiny Narragansett Pier Railroad in Peacedale, Rhode Island, purchased the engine and assigned it number 11. The locomotive was owned by several different short lines throughout its freight career, being officially retired in 1949. The locomotive was saved and stored until 1955 when a private collector purchased the locomotive for his own use. Exchanging hands throughout the years between several different collectors, the locomotive eventually ended up in the ownership of Allen Maples, president of the Everett Railroad. Upon his acquisition of the 11, the engine was moved to the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad's shops in Ridgely, West Virginia for heavy repairs. The bulk of these repairs were finished in March of 2015, and the locomotive was trucked to the Everett Railroad shop in Claysburg, Pennsylvania, where her restoration was completed by the Everett Steam Team. In fall of 2015, the locomotive returned to service for the first time since the early 1970s and will serve as the railroad's primary excursion power going forward. Brooks Mill siding, number 11, is uncoupled from the coaches. There, it will run around the train and tie onto the back. From Brooks Mill to Hollidaysburg, the train will run in reverse, which can be a challenging task for any locomotive crew. However, the skilled folks at the Everett know exactly how to handle the 11 on her journey back home. At a location called Clatter, a few local children wait for the steam locomotive to arrive. With much excitement, families exit the train into the pumpkin patch to pick out the perfect Halloween carving pumpkin. It's a blast for the kids and just as exciting for the parents. Certainly, the Everett Railroad is a must-do adventure for any family in the Hollidaysburg area.